A motion to reopen the Board of Trustees meeting, Village of Bronxville, March 14, 2022. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're going to start with the mayor's report, and, oh, we have the Pledge of Allegiance. My heavens. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Bob.
More important than that.
Yes, it is. All right, a few things, just so everyone knows, we're in the middle of the budget season, which Mr. Palmer would agree is all-consuming. And Mr. Palmer, when will we have a proposed budget for the public to look at?
You'll get it on Sunday.
Sunday. And will it go on the website?
Yeah, we'll put it on the website the following week, yep.
Oh, and then it will be talked about April 14th.
11th.
11th.
Somewhere I circulate it, but it's, right, the public hearing, if you schedule that tonight, will be on Monday, April 11th, yes.
Okay, but people can start looking at it on
Yep.
this coming Monday. Okay, and what phase are we in? I just want people to know that we continue to do all the infrastructure, televising, cleaning, getting the tree roots out. I think we're in phase 3.
Yes, yes.
And we've been working up near Woodland and so just to let people know who've had, water issues, that we continue on this path to fix our infrastructure. The gas-powered blower ban, I believe, takes effect tomorrow. And until October 15?
No, till, I'm sorry, till May 15th, May 15th.
Yes, sorry,
So Phase
May
1,
15th.
nothing over the summer, but we call it the spring.
The spring one.
Spring cleanup through May
Yeah,
15th.
thank you.
And then, right, and then the prohibition will be from May 15th to October 15th.
That's where
We
I've,
do a better job, with putting up signs for contractors, people, some they drive around, we're shutting things off. I think we need to do a better job communicating what those dates are.
yeah. And also, what is the process if someone sees one being used? I know we talked about possibly not calling the police department, but calling
Just call.
Village Hall.
Just call Village Hall. Yep,
Right.
the 337-6500 number.
Right.
Yes, and then we will absolutely investigate it.
Because just for those listening, the issue was if you got a $25 ticket, the police were called, a lot of gardening companies put it in as the cost of doing business. And so it didn't seem to deter some people. And so the idea was if they called Village Hall, we have control over the licensing of gardening companies. And there's more teeth in talking about people working in the village versus just paying random tickets. So people should call, the change is people should call Village Hall, not the police department.
But that will be starting May 16th.
Right, right.
Right, and I guess, right, and I guess as part of that, Mayor, what we need to the Deputy Mayor's point of outreach, right, yes, we can do outreach on those dates, but reminding the residents, the community, that landscapers doing work now have to have that landscaping permit, the gardener's
Right.
permit displayed on their vehicle. So for that matter, a resident can always call in to us anonymously, but give the address that we can investigate to see if there's a landscaper who doesn't have that permit displayed, because then we can revoke that permit for a period of time, which might be more of an incentive to the landscapers to follow guidance.
Exactly.
If they can't do work in the village for a month and then lose some summer business, that might have some teeth.
And Mr. Palmer, where should that license appear on the vehicle? Like the rear bumper, the left rear window? Where should we look for it?
On the rear of the vehicle, yep, on the rear
Okay.
bumper. Yep.
Okay, lots of activity this past month. We were all on a Zoom call with the president of Iona College. I wrote a column about it, but basically the most important points is the campus will be pretty quiet. Even in September, there might be some faculty in their offices. Right now, they're reconfiguring the library, so there's a fair bit of interior construction going on. There will be no residential students living there, the president said, for the foreseeable future. So, and they've hired 2 landscaping companies to keep the property neat, but this summer you might see faculty there, and that will be all.
And Mayor, they've also noted that they have ongoing security,
Good point.
despite not having people on campus.
Yes, they actually have a head of security. We participated, there was a lot of really good things. Trustee Behrens, Trustee Knapp, and I went to the 100th anniversary of the Picture House, which is now we're part of, and we can't believe our good fortune. These people are fabulous, and they're going to bring the programs that they have in Pelham over to Bronxville. And I just encourage everybody to join. If you're my age, it's only $50. You get less expensive tickets, you get special events, you get free popcorn, you get lectures. I mean, I just came home from that. We're so lucky that we have such a great partner. And then we all marched with Judge Primps and our county legislator, James Nolan, I see here, marched along with us at the Eastchester Irish American Parade yesterday afternoon before the snow. And our Chamber of Commerce even marched because it was all to honor village resident Tim McGrath. He was the Grand Marshal. And then our students did a really terrific bake sale to benefit the folks in the Ukraine. And our police department made a very generous donation to the bake sale. And we tried our end collecting in partnership with the Village Lutheran Church. And we collected a lot of met aspirins, bandages, things like that. So just a thank you to everyone. And then finally for me, tomorrow is the election. Mr. Palmer will probably give these specifics, but my colleagues, Trustee Behrens, Trustee Knapp, you're fabulous colleagues, and I hope you win by a landslide.
Competition.
Yeah.
It is
And
uncontested.
yeah, and I feel just so honored to have you as my colleague. So, and everyone get out and vote to show the support of these incredibly hardworking people. And then I'll turn it over to the deputy mayor.
Great. I would like to reiterate that we have Trustee Behrens, Trustee Knapp, Judge Primps all running for election tomorrow. They are uncontested, but come out and vote, because everyone puts in a tremendous amount of time, and it's great to see that people care about what's happening in the village. And all 3 of these individuals make a tremendous difference. And then also in this point, all 3 people show up on different tickets. And tickets stop at the front door, in terms of parties. And I hope that people come and vote and support people who are running on as a Democrat or as a Republican. I intend to, because there is zero difference on this bench with these colleagues. I'm tremendously proud to work with both of you and Judge Primps.
Thank you, Bob.
And then I want to encourage everyone to review the first annual report done by the Bronxville Police Department. There was a swift pretty substantial outreach on Swift and through emails, announcing the posting of the first annual, or the 2021 annual report by the Bronxville Police Department, which is the first of such reports. This time last year, the Bronxville Police Community Relations Committee, the PCRC, which I had the honor of chairing, which had also been meeting since October of 2020, submitted its final report. And in that report, one of the key recommendations was to increase the communication between the police department, to ensure that all of the activities of the police department are recorded and presented to the community, and that there's complete transparency behind uses of force and all other actions, including gender, race, by people who are involved with interacting with the police department, as well as the gender and racial profiles of our police department. Since the PCRC posted its report a year ago, I've continued to be involved with villages, towns, and cities across New York as the representative of the village of Bronxville, understanding how these jurisdictions have gone through this process with their committees and what their findings have been and what their recommendations were. And it was really an illuminating process to go through, and makes you realize what a phenomenal force we have. We have the best trained, the best governed, the most racially diverse and gender diverse force of any village in the state of New York. And then when you get to the level of transparency that we have, we were one of the very first communities, village, town, or city in the state of New York to post its all of its arrest records broken down by action, race, and gender, which is an incredible accomplishment. So the transparency here is absolutely top rate. There's a tremendous amount to be proud of. And we're also one of the first communities to say, here's our police department. Here's their names, here's their backgrounds, here's their ranks, here's their contact information. So please go into it. It's an incredible document. Great thanks to Chief Satriali, Lieutenant Bunyan, Sergeant DeYoung, and Officer Giroz, who did a lot of the work on the presentation materials. But we have a tremendous amount to be, one, thankful for and proud of. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think this would be a good time for all of the trustees, anybody, Trustee Behrens, because so much has happened in this past month.
In the last couple of days. On the recreational front, the village is proud to announce, we have exciting news. We're proud to announce that we have 2 pickleball courts now down at the tennis facility, and it's going to expand to 4 courts shortly. So pickleball, as people know, is one of the fastest growing sports in America, and we are proud to now be able to offer it alongside tennis down at the tennis facility. So pickleball will be included in your tennis permit. We encourage everybody to get a tennis permit, and you can sign up online or come down to Village Hall. And we also wanted to announce, Jim mentioned that the all-weather courts are open now, and the clay courts will open in April. So grab a membership, come on down, grab a court, and enjoy pickleball and or tennis. And I think it's going to be really exciting for the village. And we're going to see how it goes and see what how we take it from there.
Thank you.
So, and then, do you want me to continue?
Sure.
So, Helen and I today had a Zoom call with the search committee to find Roy Monsanto's replacement. As you know, he's retiring at the end of the year, end of the school year, and they have appointed a search committee, and he was just asking for input from the trustees. They also wanted to make us aware that they have an online survey on their website that they would like they encourage all village residents to fill out. It doesn't take that long. Helen and I looked at it this morning, but it is due by March 18th. So you can find it on the school website. It's under the district, and then you look under the superintendent search, and the link is there. Did I miss anything on that, Helen? No. And then the last thing I just wanted to talk about was NYP Lawrence. There is a new head of NYP Lawrence, Paul Dunphy. The mayor and I had a Zoom with him last week. He is concurrently running both NYP Lawrence and NYP Allen, which is located at the northern tip of Manhattan. He's been at NYP for 32 years. He's very experienced. He's held numerous roles in operations, finance, and quality. He obviously has extensive background as he was running Allen already, so this is not his first time running a hospital. We look forward to working closely with him, as Lawrence is a critical and integral part of our town. And the mayor has offered to host a breakfast for him at Village Hall with key constituents in the village to be able to introduce him to them. And we will continue our our monthly meetings or bi-monthly updates with him.
Perfect. Yeah, we talked about making sure he meets the presidents of the colleges, the head of the superintendent, people that the police chief is an important person, Jim Palmer. So we're going to start out with getting everybody around the table so that he knows some of the people that he's going to interact with. It was a great call, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you for setting it up, too.
Just in terms of that outreach to residents, we also might want to mention that we have been speaking to the president of Iona College about that same thing, about creating opportunities for residents, neighbors, to kind of get to know what is happening at Iona and, ability to share ideas, exchange ideas for partnerships. So that will be happening in the next few months as well.
Perfect. Anything else, Helen?
Nope.
Okay, and Trustee Fredericks.
Well, just to embellish what Helen said about our discussions with the president of Iona, I was struck, and I'm sure some of my colleagues were struck, that he really seemed quite sincere about wanting to have Iona be part of the community, wanting to build new bridges. They'll be different from the bridges we had with Concordia, but I think it's very exciting. I think he has a vision for the health sciences campus that's being established, and is really hoping that the village residents can provide some of their expertise to help advance their goal and to, again, be good citizens, whether it's to host voting or, just to provide a forum for village events. So I think that's really just off to a great start. The mayor's remarks are almost always comprehensive, but you forgot to mention the school boys basketball team.
Well, I thought you might want to mention that.
Well, certainly very
Yeah.
exciting. We're all proud of all our sports teams, but for them to advance on to sectional is very exciting, and we congratulate them for the run they had in the playoffs. Very quickly, Trustee Behrens and I have been working with the village administrator and village council on laws relating to sidewalk maintenance. We'll have some further discussion about that on the agenda. With respect to the Safe Streets Initiative, which we've talked about in the past, we've been working with a local group, Andrew Langhoff, Ann Jenks, Emma Chip. I'm sure I'm forgetting some additional names, but we're trying to look at different ways to improve the network of sidewalks, possibly add some bicycle lanes in the village, and we're going to have an RFP on the agenda to try to move forward in that regard. As well, we're going to be talking about the solar bill shortly in the regular course of events. And then I would be most remiss if I didn't echo the mayor's and deputy mayor's comments about how I, of course, fully endorse both Trustee Helen Knapp's and Trustee Mary Behrens' reelection efforts, and it has been just a personal and professional pleasure in every respect having them on the board, and I'm obviously confident of the result, but it will be a great result to have them returned to the board.
Thank you, Bill.
Well said.
The mayor, I might just add that NYP has also given $25 million to Iona for the campus at Concordia in respect to the health sciences. So that kind of ties, that's a nice tie-in between the hospital and the new Iona College that's taking over Concordia.
Perfect. And then I think I see our county legislator, James Nolan, here, and I don't want to keep him. James has offered to come when he can in person, and when the county is meeting, which they often meet on the same night, actually, to send a report so that we know, because I do bother James, we send an awful lot of money to the county. I think it's $8 million from the village, which is, I mean, granted, some of it does funnel through to the state, but that's a huge amount of money. So, James, what are you doing for us?
Again, we had a great time marching yesterday in the parade. It was an honor, it was my first parade. And, I look forward to the future. And anything I could do firsthand, please let me know. I look to serve Bronxville with pride and joy and grace. And I'm here to work for everybody. That's why I'm here to report to you guys tonight. So first up, Scout Field is now being taken over by Westchester County. We're going to maintain it, and the fees are going to go through there. They're also looking to upgrade the clubhouse. So we're in the works of that right now. I have been in communication to make sure that the park is renamed after the late councilman that passed away during COVID. That is something that I like the idea of, and it's only fitting to pay tribute to him as well. The flooding issue.
Talking about Deputy Mayor Bolito,
Yes,
correct?
I'm
Glenn
sorry,
Bolito.
apologize.
It's just I like to mention him. It'll be almost 2 years, and,
That's fine.
thank you. I didn't mean to interrupt.
No problem. Right now, also the flooding issue is always an issue. That is something that when I walked in the door the first day, county executive asked me what is my number one thing that I want to work on. I said the flooding. The flooding is an issue. The flooding is an issue, and we have to address it. And I'm going to make sure I keep pounding the pavement or picking up the phone and calling him probably every single day just to get a little push. And it's coming along, and I will continue to keep everybody updated on that as well. I've been meeting with a lot of department heads to get a better hand of how I can help them, but also when I help them, it's going to be helping my district as well, Yonkers and Bronxville. That's what I'm here for. And I have actually had a meeting today with the planning board, which I was updating on a lot of projects that are going forward. So when me and my PLA Devin go through them, we're going to keep you up to date, and we're going to make sure that we keep you in the loop of everything that's going on in the Bronxville County projects. I've also started a business highlight in my district where we will recognize 2 businesses every month. And already so far on the grand opening or the soft opening of the Picture House, I honored them, making them one of the business highlights, and also J.C. Fogarty's. And, it's to bring in more customers and to bring in more business, especially after the last 2 years of what it's been going on. I think it's a good way to try and revive a little bit more and do what we can to help the small business owners. I have also been picking up a backlog of constituent services, trees, things like that, sidewalk repairs, whatever I can to catch up to speed and, start moving forward with projects that I would like to do. And if there's anything that I could do for you, please don't hesitate to reach out. Me and Mayor Marvin speak almost once or twice a week now. I'm open to all ideas. And you know what? If you pick up the phone and I don't answer, it's because I'm coming to you. I'm coming to you, I'm going to report to you, I'm going to work with you. And I'm going to work with everybody here in Bronxville. That's what I'm here for, and I look forward to it. I've also written a letter of support where I'm hoping my colleagues in government on the Westchester County Board of Legislators support. Right now in Albany, they have a gas sales tax suspension until September 1st, which originally do this for on holidays. And when they do that, the sales tax money goes to a school fund. They're looking to redirect this to go towards bridges and tunnels and highways. So it'll save average about 42 cents a gallon, which is a big thing right now that could help a lot of people, especially during this time with the rising costs in gas and inflation. So I'm hoping I can get some support, and it looks like it's gonna, we're gonna get support down here to encourage Albany to do it. And the number one thing that I've been hearing about, and I'm happy to report on, is the bridge that was washed away during Ida will be repaired and replaced. That bridge will be replaced. It's actually in the very early planning stages right now. FEMA is replacing it, so we're going to get reimbursed $700,000, and construction will begin in about a year. And I look forward to doing whatever I can to keep you up to date. And if there's any other projects, please let me know. I look forward to it. I'm going to come back with updates as much as possible. And, thank you again. It's a real honor to be here with everybody.
Thank you. And
James, can I just ask you one quick question? Is that bridge is going to take a year to make?
Well, right now, it's because
replaced?
the money comes down from the federal government. They reimburse us once we put out the money. It's in the real early planning stages of design, and then they got to find the materials and everything like that. So it should take about 3 to 6 months for planning to complete, and it'll take about a year from now for the bridge to be installed. Because it literally got washed, it got washed away. So they're going to redo the foundation, they're going to make it stronger so this doesn't happen again, and it'll be more, stronger. That's what it would do.
Anything you can do to keep that going, because that we were just talking about that the other day. So many people, not only from Bronxville, but around the area come and they walk around there, and it's such a, an integral part of that area, so.
No, I
sooner-
definitely will. Like, I will
understand
continue to
it
keep
takes
the
a long time.
updates coming. We call about every other day to find an update. And actually, County Executive Vladimir's office is going to put together a press release this week, so we can put it out there and keep everybody informed, and just to let everybody know what's going on.
Thank you.
You're
So,
welcome.
James, just to be clear, the federal government's going to run the bridge project, not the county?
So,
Or the
FEMA's-
county's going to run it and FEMA's going to reimburse them?
Well,
And just so everyone knows, this is the pedestrian bridge by
Yes.
Bronxville Lake, sort of, closest
Yes.
to all the
That's
apartments.
not technically in Bronxville, but many Bronxville residents use it.
Yes, so it's going to be replaced by FEMA. So what happens with that is because Ida is a state emergency, FEMA then reimburses us the money. So we put out the money, and FEMA reimburses us through an application that was already approved. So they moved it along, and then that's how we're going to get the money back.
So who's actually going to build it? Will it be the county?
DPW for Westchester County.
Okay,
is
the
building
county
it.
DPW
Yes.
is going to build the bridge.
Yes.
And they haven't put out the RFPs yet, I gather?
No.
No.
Not yet. So like I said, once I get the plans and I hear any more updates, I will make sure to inform everybody.
or I'll just call you and bother you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
So like I said, if there's anything else, I would love to answer. And like I said once before, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, James.
Thank you.
And then we have, before we get to our business, I didn't want to forget the village, thank you, the village administrator's report.
Just briefly, just following up on the elections, again, the Village Hall is a polling site for 2 districts. This is the same location if you previously voted here for the village election. Firehouse across the street at the corner will also be servicing 3 districts. If you voted there previously for the general election, village election, it's also there. Residents now voting there can use the new parking lot right off of Palumbo. So you can turn into Palumbo off of Midland and park there and vote. And then those residents that vote, of course, over at Christ Church, same 2 polling districts. Remember, some time ago, we consolidated the Lawrence Hospital and Christ Church all to 1 location, and there's ample parking right on Kensington Road, and it's in the auditorium there. And polling hours are 6 a.m. to 9 p.m., so just wanted to mention that. Also, just wanted to mention that this week is Flood Safety Awareness Week. So
We are aware.
So we will be posting information on the village website. Believe it or not, because surprisingly, Hurricane Ida was the first time that the National Weather Service for New York ever issued a flash flood emergency. So I got to say, through the efforts of the National Weather Service, the Office of Emergency Management, and all the local 45 cities, towns, and villages in 1 county, are trying to improve the outreach to the community in terms of what a flash flood emergency means versus a flash flood warning. So Anyway, we'll put that information out on the website. People should sign up so you can get notifications when there is a warning in the area. Anyway, that was that. And then I just wanted to announce that, I'm not sure if all the board knows, but we are losing our parking office manager, Margaret Parr, who's done a wonderful job with the village for almost 7 years, is leaving us for another community. So for everyone in the community that has ever had to get a parking permit, has gone through Margaret, and she's done a wonderful job. Or for that matter, she's also been a registrar, so she's done birth certificate and death certificate. So anyway,
And she's getting a big promotion, so it's good for Margaret.
we wish her very well, and
Miss her.
What's her
we
last
will
name?
miss her.
Parr.
Par.
No, what's her last day?
Her last day is next Friday, actually next Friday. Yep. Is that the 1st, is it, or the 31st? Not next Friday, the following Friday, March 31st, yep. And that's it, Mayor.
Okay, and now we move on, just approval of the minutes.
Okay, before we do that, can we just have the minutes reflect an appreciation from the village board to Margaret for a job well done and wish her good luck?
Very nice. Yes, perfect. And Marianne, I love seeing you in person. Yes, yeah. And I need a motion to approve the minutes from the February 7th work session, as well as the February 7th, 2022 regular meeting. Do I?
I just
Yes.
have one comment about, or do you want to make the motion first?
Let's make the motion. Do I have someone to move it?
Sure, moving.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, and then Helen.
So there was, in the administrator's report, there was, it says on the third line, residents and business owners are also reminded to keep sidewalks in front free. I just thought we should make that more than just the front. I think we were talking about it, their responsibility is for the sidewalks on the side or the back, it doesn't necessarily just mean that it's restricted to the front, so maybe something like on their
We'll
property.
change it to a budding or, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
a budding is probably perfect, yeah. Okay.
I just don't want anybody to think that that's.
And then Marianne and I just fixed a couple commas and, yeah,
I gave one, yeah. I gave
yeah,
one.
so thank you. And there is never very much, because you do a fabulous job.
We try to find them, and it's very
We
hard.
do. All right, do I, all in favor of accepting our minutes?
Aye.
Aye, all righty. Now we go on to a public hearing. I need a vote to open the public hearing. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. All right, we will open a public hearing on proposed local law 2/2022, amendments to Chapter 310-22F pertaining to solar energy systems in the village's zoning code. And I see residents here and members of our Green Committee and our Planning Board Chairman. Thank you all. And our Design Review Committee Chair, and our school board members here. So how should we, council or bill, just to, there's a lot of legalese that has to be there. How does this sort of improve our zoning code?
So, Bill, do you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I think you should lead the discussion and also probably note at the beginning the two tweaks to the statute we've made.
So let me do that first. We've had a number of comments come in on the law over the course of its publication since the last meeting, which have resulted in my recommendation in the work session, which I think the board was amenable to make two what I'll call non-substantive tweaks to it. The first one would be, let me get the section correct here now. It's going to be in section F4A, which is on page 3 at the top, where it says requirements for solar energy system design, where it says A, where I think we've agreed we'll add the words non-roof mounted to begin that sentence. And we've had some comments from people that paragraph caused some concern that the roof-mounted panels could only be in the side or rear yards. It wasn't the intent of it, it was for the equipment. So I think that clarifies that. And then we had a comment from zoning board chair Stuart McIntosh for a change on page 4 under section, let's see, so we're in F. Sorry. F5A 4C, and I think it's easier to describe it by saying it's on page 4, and it's the third paragraph from the bottom.
Right.
I'm sorry, no, my mistake. It's on page 4, under 4A, which says, on a pitched roof facing a street or public way, the equipment must be mounted, we're going to take the word flush out and just have it read with the plane of the system parallel with the roof surface, and shall be mounted as close to the roof as possible. Because the, as Stuart McIntosh rightly pointed out, in some cases it won't be exactly flush, but that language says you got to get it as close to on the roof as you can. So just those two changes, neither of them is substantive. Now going back to the genesis of the law, you know, Bronxville, I guess, had one of the first solar laws in this region adopted back in 2010, I believe. But over the course of the last year or two, it's become apparent that it needed to be updated. And following up with the initiative that this board has had over the last number of years to continually update the code, and also based upon the initiative of what we've colloquially called the Committee of Trustee Fredericks and Stuart McIntosh with the assistance of Paul Taft and so forth. The village and Jim Palmer, of course, took a look at the solar. The primary issue that the village was having was that almost every application for a residential solar installation was ending up at the Zoning Board of Appeals because the requirements of the statute, being somewhat outdated, were so what I'll call tight that a reasonable contemporary installation couldn't comply with them, and they were all ending up at the zoning board for variances. So, among other things, what I just referred to as the committee had a conversation with the head of Sustainable Westchester, Leah Wigman, to get a sort of a sense of the playing field and a sense of what's sort of necessary now to have a reasonable installation. We did a reconnaissance of a number of the municipalities in this region, particularly the ones that are similar to Bronxville in size and in their residential character, and ultimately determined that there was just no one-size-fits-all for setting up a set of solar regulations for Bronxville, particularly in the residential properties that are so unique in their size and shape and topography. And so decided that the best approach would be to move towards what a number of municipalities have moved towards, which would be loosening some of these, what I will call previously objective regulations, like you can't cover more than 1/3 of the roof, of a plane of the roof with a solar panel, and instead replacing them with a set of design guidelines that would be administered primarily by the Design Review Committee of the Planning Board with an ultimate approval by the Planning Board. But since that would create a new process for applicants, we balanced that, or tried to balance it, by simplifying the application procedure before the boards, and adopted a procedure analogous to the one that the village uses for signs, which is a procedure that doesn't require a pre-meeting with the planning board, doesn't require even 2 further meetings, a preliminary site plan and a final, but rather hopefully a one-stop process at design review and then a final approval by the planning board. And we also built into this a substantial relaxing of the amount of data that needs to be submitted to the planning board for an application. In other words, most planning board applications require a terrific amount of data because they're for a building construction. So we stripped out all the things that would be irrelevant to a solar installation. Paul Taft, building official, has developed a streamlined application procedure, and so that's where we've landed with this law. In substance, a set of, rather than a set of hard objective criteria, a set of design guidelines to be implemented by the Design Review Committee and Planning, with the understanding that they can add guidelines as they work and feel that others are appropriate, and that this board can add guidelines by resolution from time to time as we work through this and what an experience teaches us. So that's the law. You now will have a process. I'm talking primarily for residential, where there'll be an application to design review on a streamlined application that Paul Taft has designed, and a streamlined procedure before design review and planning. But a good bit of flexibility by design review and planning to tailor each installation to the property involved.
Thank you. Yes, Trustee Fredericks.
I'll be very brief because Mr. Stout, Village Council, has been both comprehensive and succinct in describing what the new code intends to do. I want to echo the sentiment that all of us who were involved in looking at the solar law revisions recognize that this was not a case of one size fits all. And so therefore we did opt, as council has said, for an approach that gives more discretion and flexibility to the Design Review Committee and to the relevant land use committees generally. We would be remiss if we didn't thank Paul Taft, Village Building Inspector, Jim Palmer, Village Zoning Board Chairman Stuart McIntosh, Vice Chairman Marty Murr, who was here for the work session but wasn't able to be here for the full meeting. But all of their inputs have been extremely valuable. And of course, the work of Village Council's firm, Mr. Stout's firm, has been characteristically excellent in terms of looking at other communities and getting guidance from other communities where appropriate, but fine-tuning it to the needs of the village where appropriate. And I think that what we have is something that moves the village forward, keeps us at the front of the queue in terms of not being behind the times in terms of technology, but also gives appropriate authority and responsibility in the first instance to the Design Review Committee to help the village flesh through some of these issues. Technology changes, sense of priorities changes a little bit. I mean, obviously solar energy is much more in the news than it was in the past, but preserving the aesthetics of the village are also an important consideration, and it's going to involve balancing in a lot of cases. And I think all of us on the board have great confidence in all the village's various sub-boards, and we're very lucky in the quality of the people we have on zoning and planning, design review. Your work is not always easy. I hope the residents of the village appreciate that it's not always easy. In fact, it can often be hard and difficult because sometimes there are winners and losers on applications, or neighbors may feel they're winners or losers, or applicants feel they're winners and losers. But I hope this gets the process moving towards the next generation where we should be, and we will look to residents, to our board members, to council, and from other sources to update and tweak things as may be necessary, but I'm confident this is a good start and that it represents the right approach. It may not be perfect, but it's certainly better than we have, and so I'm going to be supporting the revision.
Before I open it to anybody in the audience, trustees, any other comments?
I've received very positive feedback on the new public law, and I want to thank everybody who made this possible, because there was a tremendous amount of work by numerous parties involved, so thank you all very much, and I look forward to the public comments as well.
Anyone else? No, just a thank you before I opened, our Green Committee members.
And I think one point that's really important here, one, thank you for the great work, everyone. But I think, Jim, what's clear here is that this is not an end.
Right.
It's not an end point. This is a new point, and it's a new point from which we can move into the future. And it's a near certainty that we'll be moving from this future point somewhere else as facts and circumstances arise, and you learn stuff at DRC and we learn stuff at zoning. It's certain that things will change, but I think this is a great kind of big next step.
You're right, because next we probably have to look at commercial at some point.
Well, and there's going to be little nicks, things that come to us as trustees.
So actually, it would be interesting to kind of, as the applications come in and you are looking at these issues, to somehow, have that communication with us so we see what you guys are confronting. And
One thing I should have pointed out is that I see Planning Board Chair Reach is here tonight, and he's been working with us. Jim Palmer's been in regular communication about this with Chair Reach, and he's working with us to help develop this in a way that would be, that could be administered by his board.
Yeah, Chairman Reitz, I owe you an apology for inadvertently omitting you from our list. But we're so lucky to have you as chairman of the planning board.
But that's what you get for sitting in the back of the room.
the back corner, the farthest
He's
corner
been doing
away.
that since kindergarten.
And just to mention, too, when we look at people, we had Neil Stefano, our chairman of our design review committee, come for the whole work session and gave us some really good points on how to make this, frankly, as balancing but as least subjective as we possibly can. And I thank you took a lot of that to heart, so thank you, Neil.
And then among the questions that we've received as a board is, how does it handle the commercial side of it? How does that get handled? This is obviously not addressed in this bill. Could you talk a little bit about that process?
In the large residential buildings, like
Yeah, the
the
commercial.
apartment buildings.
Yeah, so the non-one family residential is currently handled in our code under what we call a special permit process. Special permits are issued by the planning board for applications, and that's really an individual property tailoring process with a bit more process than I described for the streamline for the one-family residential. Not that it doesn't warrant maybe taking a look at next. We concentrated primarily on the residential here, but that's how commercial is handled now. The planning board gets a good, robust look at applications if they come under a whole special permit process.
We've never actually had a commercial or a co-op come to us, but, times are changing, so we might, we need to get ready.
Yeah.
So, all right, I would like to open it up to anyone that would like to talk on this particular topic. And if you just tell us your name and maybe your association. Yeah. Hi, Ellen.
Well, hi, I'm Ellen Edwards, Chair of the Bronxville Green Committee. So I have two statements, one first from the Green Committee, and then Pamela Lippi and Guy Morris asked me to read a statement from them as well. So as the Bronxville Green Committee, we want to thank the mayor, the trustees, and the town administrator for proposing this new solar ordinance. It's a major step in the right direction, and we endorse it enthusiastically. The new ordinance will make it far more possible for residents of single-family homes to add solar panels to their rooftops. As more homes install solar, It is the Green Committee's hope that commercial buildings, institutions such as our school and churches, and multi-story apartment complexes will also add solar. To address climate change and free ourselves from a reliance on fossil fuels, we will need to electrify our buildings. Prices during this time of transition are already proving to be volatile. Locally generated solar power will help owners weather these fluctuations in price while making the grid more resilient and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. We will all benefit, so thank you. And then from Pam Lippy and Guy Morris, to whom it may concern, as probably the first, if not the only homeowner in Bronxville that has put solar on our home, we are very disappointed that the public hearing has coincided with a long-planned vacation out of the country that could not be changed. We would have loved to be here to testify and answer any questions in person. Bronxville's current ordinance has two aspects that have stopped most homeowners from contributing to solving the climate crisis and protecting themselves from skyrocketing energy prices. We are thrilled that Bronxville would remove both in the new ordinance. The first was a limitation on the number of panels that could be put on one roof plane. It is important to understand that there is usually only one roof plane that is optimal for solar, so you want to have as many panels as possible in keeping with appropriate limitations for fire safety. The second limitation on panels was on panels facing the street. We are lucky that our south-facing roof plane does not face the street, but many homeowners in Bronxville are not so lucky. It is critical that Bronxville remove the limitation of solar panels facing the street, but we believe that the ordinance has not been written clearly enough. The language is confusing. It states requirements for solar energy system design, solar energy equipment or components thereof, shall be located on a side or rear yard only. I've been told that solar energy equipment refers only to the ancillary equipment, not solar panels, and that only such ancillary equipment must be located on the side or rear. But much of the language in the ordinance appears to contradict that, using equipment and solar energy equipment to clearly refer to panels such as the following. And then she quotes from the ordinance. To the greatest extent practicable, solar energy equipment shall use materials, colors, and textures designed to blend with the structure to which it is affixed. Solar energy equipment may be mounted in any section of the roof of a building, provided it meets these guidelines and complies with the following requirements. The equipment shall be installed so as to appear regular in shape and arranged in a pattern that conforms with the general shape and configuration of the roof upon which it is mounted. When the arrangement of equipment is broken up by a building feature, the equipment shall be arranged symmetrically. The equipment and its installation shall not damage or obscure character-defining features such as dormers, cornices, chimneys, and roofline. We would strongly recommend substituting a phrase such as solar converting unit or solar collecting unit to help clarify where you are referring to that type of equipment. We are so appreciative that our town is recognizing the gravity of the climate emergency we face and the skyrocketing price of electricity, and allowing homeowners to take the actions that they feel necessary to protect themselves financially and head off a climate catastrophe. We thank the Bronxville Administrator and Mayor for drafting a forward-looking ordinance that brings Bronxville in line with the goals of New York State, our nation, and the world, and recommend the minor clarifications described above. We hope the trustees will support this very important effort. Sincerely, Pam Lippy and Guy Morris. So thank you.
Thank you. Council, I think those were exactly the 2 points you might share with them if you speak to them before we do, that we concurred and those were changed. So it's nice to all be on the same page.
Have we heard any comments against it? Like,
She's pushing me.
Okay.
You're asking for comments against it.
No, we're not against.
okay, I was just curious. I was just while we're in the process. Go ahead, please.
Jack Beerworth, come on up.
Yes, I'm not coming as a school trustee. Although in my past life, when I was a superintendent, we got a grant to pilot solar energy on one of our elementary schools.
Wow.
In Herrick's, which I think we installed about 10, 12, maybe even 15 years ago, on one of the flat roofs. And it was wonderful because on a good spring day, you could take classes out and they could watch the meters start going backwards. It was terrific. We probably, if there is a brunt to be borne, we probably bear 99% of the brunt because the solar panels on Guy and Pam's house faces our daughter Emily's bedroom. It is not objectionable. In fact, I think it's wonderful. And covering the whole roof as opposed to 30% would make zero difference. I think this is a big step forward. We put solar energy panels on our house in New Hampshire, and I can't tell you how wonderful it is to get a bill from the electric company and have a minus, which we get for about 4 or 5 months. They get it in the winter, but even though it's covered with trees, April, May, June, July, I get a bill and it has a minus. And I can't tell you how wonderful that is. Not only is it a financial saving, but I'm feeling like I'm burning less electricity. And we have a battery, so when everybody else loses electricity, we have electricity for 24 to 48 hours, which in New Hampshire, when you can have freezing pipes, having electricity to carry you through an outage is wonderful. I think the amendments that you've made took care of the issues that I was part of the discussion, and I'd like to hear the comments about learning from this, because the technology is going to change. They're going to come forward with new things, and if you can adjust, then you can help homeowners not only do a good thing, but do it in a way that works for the village as a whole. So thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. Anyone, and Jack, to your point, council put in, when we see things that might have to be adjusted because we are kind of in new territory, that we can do it by a resolution sitting up here in one night and not have to go through the 30-day hearing process. So I think we listened to that as well, so thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, do I have a motion to close the public hearing? Okay, in a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Alrighty, public hearing is closed, and I have a sense from this board we could adopt this tonight if everyone is agreeable. So do I have a motion to adopt with our non-substantive changes?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, we have a new solar law. Hooray. Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, everybody.
That's great, really impressive work, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you both.
yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
All right.
Can I just,
Yeah.
as a comment, when Jack was mentioning the trees, I just, I wonder to the extent that this might encourage people who do want to apply for solar to cut down trees to maximize the amount of sun they're getting on their panels. So I think this just goes into the discussion we've been having about the tree ordinances in Bronxville and making sure that we're kind of carrying on together with this, because
Well, and I'm sure the Green Committee may be able to give us some input because, of course, shade trees provide enormous energy savings in summer.
well, I just
So
wonder to what
it's,
extent people end up cutting down trees
Yeah.
to, you know,
Yeah.
for the winter to, or whatever, to maximize the amount of sun that gets on their roof. I don't know what's the.
Yeah, I've just concluded that when there's a technical question, the Green Committee is usually the first place we should go.
So lucky to have the Green Committee.
Yes, thank you.
Well, I will just say that Ellen and I did speak today, and we're going to meet next week to discuss where we are on the tree ordinance, to hopefully be able to start to refine some items that we can then run by all of you, and then to move to Jim to start crafting into the law. So we're going to try to keep ourselves on that timetable.
Yeah, I had a great conversation with Michelle Sterling of Scarsdale yesterday, so I have a pretty good, understanding of theirs, and so I'm looking into some other ones too, so I'll share all that with Jim next week, but it's a complicated issue.
Yeah,
You know.
yeah.
Budget first.
Thank you. All right, we go to our annual resolution to schedule a public hearing for local law 3-2022, which is the property tax cap override. And this is something that we have to do just in case our budget goes above the 2% that the state requires. So this is something we do every year. Some years, Jim Palmer might be returning money this year. Who knows?
I think this is absolutely, I just feel very strongly that no one knows better how to run this village than the people in this village. And I just think that the state shouldn't be telling us what we can and cannot do with respect to our budget. And so I would like to
Move it. All right. Do I have a second? Second, okay. And I just have to agree, the one that's always rankled me is a school district and the state itself can exempt all infrastructure improvements, but if you're a government, you can't. So talk about the biggest disincentive to ever fix anything. I mean, and the comptroller of the state said we have like $458 million worth of deferred maintenance. So you're telling a municipality that they can't exempt it to do their maintenance. So shocking, people are not doing the maintenance. I mean, the logic is zero on this thing as far as I'm concerned.
Did you mention that there is kind of something afoot in Albany to change that? There's some advocacy efforts to exempt capital expenditures?
There are some, but we were talking frankly to, the mayors got together with all the legislators, and because it's an election year and it looks like a tax raise, nobody's touching it this year. And they all said it very honestly. So it was on the table until
Politics got involved.
politics got involved. Well said.
Mary, this has been around since you've been mayor.
Yeah.
It's not new.
No.
Not new, and the number was very arbitrary. If you even look at how the state calculates the rate of inflation, how the Department of Labor calculates it, it's at over 4%. So but to the mayor's point, well, the village works real hard to keep the tax burden as low as possible, but the 2% number that they came up with was very arbitrary, and the way the law is written, again, it's 2% or the rate of inflation, whichever is lower.
Yeah.
But the 2% does not take into account the price of oil and gas right now, that's for sure.
Yeah. All right, so I think I had a second, so all in favor of scheduling the, okay. And then we need to schedule another public hearing for April 11th, and that's on our sidewalk maintenance and repair, which is an amendment to a chapter in the village code. Does anyone want to speak to this?
I would like,
Pardon me?
Yeah, did you
No,
skip C?
we do need to schedule the budget public hearing also, and
I
the
did
annual meeting.
skip
Yep.
C. See, that's why I need you here. I told you that today. Okay, this one's easy. We have to schedule a public hearing. Okay, in a second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you, Mary Ann. All right, sidewalk maintenance.
could I interject?
Sure.
Sure. I think we had talked about in our work session, In January, the mayor, the trustees are all very interested in healthy sidewalks, preserving and maintaining our sidewalks in our village. Walkability is a number one, is a very important goal in the village, and it's obviously dovetails very closely with the Safe Streets Initiative. And to the extent that we wanted Jim Palmer to look at the sidewalk rules, the codes, the laws, and see if we needed to enhance them or further codify them with respect to making them, more clear, or also if they needed to be updated. So that was what we had tasked him with, and I think that's why we are getting this tonight. Am I stating that correctly among the trustees?
Great explanation. Thank you. Thank
Yeah, and I
you.
was just going to say, if you could just make sure, you should all have
The revised
a
one.
copy of the latest and
Yeah.
greatest based on discussions for today.
Okay, so do I have someone to move it to schedule that public hearing?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Then we have our very common authorizing sale of surplus equipment, and it's 3 vehicles in the police department. Again, this is the norm. And I read an article on Sunday that it's a great time to sell these.
Yes, so.
Right now.
At your last board meeting, you authorized our new purchases. We want to get these out ASAP,
Yeah.
yes.
And they were
We'll do
saying
very
timing
well.
is everything, and we could get some good money for these. So do I have a motion to authorize this sale?
So moved.
And a second. Second. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. And then finally, the last one, and I think so many trustees have worked on this, so would anyone like to explain our final item, which is authorizing a request for proposal?
Well, why don't I take the lead on it with thanks to Trustee Behrens and Trustee Knapp, who have also been very much involved in working with the Safe Streets group to try to further advance some of the concepts that Trustee Behrens was referencing a moment ago with regard to walkability in the village. As some residents may be aware, and certainly the board is aware, we have recently approved getting an RFP for a crosswalk across Route 22 in the vicinity of Elm Rock and Duesenberry. But parallel to that have been discussions with the Safe Streets group here in the village, and work that a consulting firm did starting last fall, and their report came in, Jim, I think in January, where they sort of looked at some general walkability issues generally. But to sum up what the RFP is about, we have had discussions about improving walkability in various aspects of the village. Improving sidewalks along Sagamore, for example, improving the traffic circle by the hospital, improving the crosswalks here at our four corners at Midland and Pondfield. The hearing we've scheduled for improving sidewalk quality generally wherever they exist. But we also identified that there was a particular gap in terms of walkability in what I call the sort of northeastern quadrant of the village, which is basically east of Midland and north of Pondfield. There are a lot of residents there who would like to be able to walk their kids to school, but basically there are no sidewalks between Midland and Route 22. There's a sidewalk that goes along Route 22, there's a sidewalk that goes along Midland, there's a sidewalk that goes along Pondfield, but there's very, very little else in that whole sector of the village, and the Route 22 crosswalk is going to make crossing Route 22 accessible, but we still have to figure out what else we can do to create a safe corridor for kids and pedestrians and just friendly walkers to get from that crosswalk to the school or the business district. And maybe there are also ways to flow additional safe street pedestrian corridors that are sort of in the Woodland, Tanglewild area and in the Elm Forest. I always forget one of the lanes in that section of town, but Elm Edgewood Forest Lane, to try to just look more generally at that whole issue of what we can do to create some additional walkability in this area where there just aren't a lot of sidewalks and not a lot of thought has been given to this problem recently. So this RFP basically is designed to get a consultant to look at creating some additional corridors. Maybe some will merge into each other at some point, maybe they'll be separate, but to get some advice to build upon the work that's already been done by the FHI consultants this fall, and to basically tell us what we can do. And just in a nutshell, thoughts have been, should we try to channel pedestrians down Hemlock, which is a relatively low-traffic street, or down to Masterton, which has some problems because the existing sidewalk there goes kind of up and down through some steps. So we'll be interested in some advice there, and also just advice as to whether through striping or other devices we may be able to create some discernible, safer areas for pedestrians to walk. And finally, it also asks the consultants to look at the feasibility of possibly putting in a bike lane the length of Midland and possibly along Pondfield from the Four Corners up to at least Locust, probably not all the way up to Route 22 because the hill's so steep once you go up that bend on Pondfield. But that's a little bit of the context. And again, much as with solar, I think this is a beginning, not an end. But we're starting in this area in part because we've got funding and machinations in place to get the crosswalk done, and we don't want to build a bridge to nowhere. We want to have that crosswalk integrated with a pedestrian corridor. And I think we're starting with this area simply because if you look at a map of the village and where its existing sidewalks are, there just aren't any sidewalks in this area of the village, which is probably about a third of the area of the village. And we all want to reduce the number of kids driving to school, and there are just a lot of people who I suspect are driving their kids from these areas because they said we don't want to cross Route 22 or we don't have safe routes. So hopefully this is another green initiative, but it's a practical initiative and one which hopefully will benefit everyone, kids and anyone who just likes to go out for a walk and not get hit by an Amazon driver or FedEx delivery person. So that's what it's about. Sorry for the rather long discourse, and thanks again to Helen and Mary and Jim Palmer for all their work on this.
Well, then, do I have a motion for the issuance of this RFP?
Can I just, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
I'm sorry.
I always think I should wait till my comments to make them, before you make the motion? Is that
I'm
what
not
supposed to
sure.
do?
Jim Palmer, Jim Stout, what is the sort of Robert's rules on that?
Robert's rules wise, usually the motion is made and seconded and then
Then-
common comments. However,
Okay.
it doesn't have to be. That's Robert's rules. You can have
Okay,
your own
just
procedure
curious.
where people can
I just want to
comment
do the right thing.
anytime.
Yes.
So whatever you choose.
All right, so Helen, you make the motion, I'll second it.
So moved.
And, all right, second, and then comment.
Okay, so, do we have a certain group of consultants that we're putting this out to that we know do good work for this kind of RFP?
Yes,
Okay.
other qualified companies that we've dealt with and who can respond timely, yeah.
Okay, and the estimated cost is somewhere south of $100,000?
Yes, you know, what, we're not putting, excuse me, we're not putting a price in this at this point, but we want to see what the responses are and if they have any questions. But yes, we specifically, the group worked real hard to define the specific locations to try to channel the focus and
Thank you.
make a difference.
All right, any other questions? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, then I need a motion to close our March 14th meeting.
So moved.
And a second. All those in favor? Aye. And we'll see everyone April 11th.
It'll be a long night.
And I think we might be here all night.